move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Catherine Fletcher.
Thank you very much, Madam Deputy Speaker, and may I say how grateful I am to the Speaker for granting this important debate and for the Minister responding. The topic is about a train station called Midge Hall, which is to the west of Leyland. It was a much-loved local service, and unfortunately, during the beaching cuts, it was designated to be closed. What happens now is that the people of West Leyland have a situation where a train comes along to Midge Hall station, it stops, they peer out at a platform that they cannot get off and cannot get on. And to describe this as a nonsense, I think the people of Leyland and the broader communities of South Ribble have said to me on many occasions they agree. So let me examine, with the House's permission, why I am trying to fix this situation. Midge Hall was originally closed back in the 60s. It sits on a line that goes directly between Preston and Liverpool. At the time, I wasn't around on this planet to understand the rationale, but subsequent to that, there has been a significant development of a trading estate, not too far a walk from the station itself. And there is also, very recently, a wonderful brownfield development of homes and houses going onto the old Leyland test track, where the HGVs used to be whizzed around in circles. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, you can imagine the size of it. Houses are being built there. The ultimate plan is to have up to 2,000 people living there within a very short walk from the train station of Midge Hall. So let me return back to the Midge Hall train station. Why does the train stop? Do passengers peer out at a platform that they can only dream of using and then carry on? It's because the line switches to single track, so the train has to stop there to exchange a safety token. This means that there is already dwell time at the station, the trains are already stopping, and really what we are looking for here is the opportunity for the investment to deliver new station platform access and buildings. There's precedent here, Madam Deputy Speaker. Recently, near Liverpool, a train station of a similar age and ilk was reopened and connected to the Merseyrail network, and the station works cost approximately £13 million. So even with some cost inflation, thanks to Vladimir Putin's war in Ukraine, we are not talking about an unachievable amount of money to allow passengers to get on and off a train where it already stops to exchange a token. Let me talk about this more broadly, because it's not just a nonsense I'm trying to write. There are businesses within walking distance that are not served well by public transport at the moment, and approximately a kilometre south to the site, in easy access of an active travel, walking and cycleway, the government currently has a planning application in to build a third prison at Alns Walton. That prison is currently that decision is currently with the planning inspector, because extraordinarily the planning inspector reopened the planning inquiry just to focus on the issues of transport and infrastructure and the servicing of the new prison. And I would politely suggest to the Minister and members of the government in the MOJ that reopening Midge Hall Station will provide an important utility to address some of the issues that are being considered by the Planning Inspectorate, given its proximity to this new development site. But that's not all. I am a Conservative, I'm a realist, I understand that we need to use taxpayers' money well. And it's not just the existing train and existing platform that will be used. There is an opportunity to make this Preston to Liverpool train service zing even more. Because, as the Minister well knows, he's a dedicated and passionate advocate of the railways. When Merseyrail was created, they made a decision to have trains running on a third rail, running on an electric rail that runs alongside the track, and that's what supplies electricity to the trains. The point where Merseyrail turns to Northern Rail, so Liverpool turns into Lancashire, is at Ormskirk, wonderful town. And as it stands at the moment, this line that the trains use stop at Ormskirk because the buffers have been put up. And those buffers are purely administrative. They mark a demarcation between where Northern trains run the service and where Mersey trains run the service. So anybody from the stations in my patch that use the line, from Croston, for example, from Rufford, if they want to go to Liverpool, they get the train to Ormskirk, they stop, they get out, they toddle down the platform, walking past a set of buffers, they wait for the Merseyrail train to come, then they get on that and continue their journey into Liverpool. And what's important there, Madam Deputy Speaker, is previously, with the technology available, it's been an expensive job to try and run trains directly through from Liverpool to Preston. And the reason it's been expensive is because how would we supply electricity to the trains? Installing the third rail infrastructure, I grant you, is expensive. And storing overhead electricity, it's not a cheap job. But here, the miracles of modern science and the wonderful engineers, both in the UK and around the world, come to the rescue with the recent innovation of battery-powered trains. Now, Merseyrail are already starting to run battery-powered trains to solve problems like this, where the third rail ends, they continue their journey on standard rail with no additional electricity needed. They go to their station, they come back, they pick the third rail up, they pick the charge up, and they carry on. And it's my proposal to this House and the Minister that removing the buffers at Ormskirk and installing battery trains on that line both improves the service, allowing for a direct connection from Leyland, Lostock Hall, Preston, Croston, Rufford, Ormskirk and stations beyond to go to Preston directly or to go to Liverpool directly, but that this innovation will improve the usage of the line, further making the case for Midge Hall to have greater footfall to allow people to get that train. At the moment, for context, if you want to get a train to Liverpool from Leyland on that side of the lane and you walk all the way across Leyland to the main Leyland station, which picks up a line that goes via Wigan, then comes round in through the east of Liverpool. And I know that there is enormous local support in South Ribble for a direct service between Preston and Liverpool, cutting journey times, cutting carbon emissions, opening up leisure opportunities for the fantastic Liverpool nightlife. I know that's been highlighted wonderfully this weekend with the warm welcome that all Liverpudlians made to visitors to the Grand National. All of those opportunities are unlocked by infrastructure. And Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm sure you're fully aware, the Northern Powerhouse, which is a passion of many of us in this chamber, not you least, is an idea to grow economics of the north of England by agglomeration economics, i.e. in part, better joining up communities creates a larger spread which allows for economic growth, and infrastructure is that tool that connects those communities up to deliver economic growth and deliver a northern powerhouse. So, what's not to like, Madam Deputy Speaker? I can see that we come to the formal proceedings of the House, so maybe, if with your permission, I could update you shortly afterwards.
Order.
I beg to move that this House do now adjourn.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. Catherine Fletcher.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker, and I'm very grateful to the front bench for having a better eye on the clock than I do. So, to summarise, Madam Deputy Speaker, we have spoken about a train station where trains already stop in Midge Hall, a train station with a signal box, with a manned signalman, where passengers get out, stop, look at a platform and can't get on and off. We've spoken about the opportunity to further improve that line by creating direct trains between Liverpool and Preston by removing the buffers at Ormskirk, which currently stop trains from running straight through. We've spoken about the technology on offer of battery-powered trains that would allow for trains to run from Ormskirk to Preston within an accessible battery distance time, not requiring an enormous amounts to spend on transport infrastructure to achieve it. But there is one final part of this picture. Dame Rosie Cooper, the former West Lancashire MP, was wonderfully articulate about this in terms of some of the gaps we have in Central and West Lancashire on public transport. And there's one more thing that Beeching removed, that if we put back in place would really make Midge Hall sing, would make the Liverpool to Preston connection sing, and that's a reinstatement of the Burscough curves. Now, for context, this is the railway line that goes from Preston to Ormskirk and Liverpool, crosses over a railway line that goes from Southport to Wigan. Historically, there were two curves in it, which allowed trains to go from Southport to Preston directly, Southport to Liverpool directly. At the moment, I note the presence in the chamber of my right honourable friend, the member for Southport. If he wants to come and visit me in Croston, he has to get on a train from Southport, get to Wigan, walk across to a different station in Wigan, get a train from Wigan to Leyland or Preston, and then get a train back down on a different line. And Madam Deputy Speaker, in the 21st century, that feels more like a game of logic than a piece of transport infrastructure. And whilst I do accept, and I'm sure the Minister will say that in his remarks, that is a larger task than reinvigorating an old platform or removing the administrative buses, I think it's remiss of me not to talk about it within the context of this scheme and the case for Midge Hall. Okay. Fine. So, to summarise, what I believe I've called this debate for and what I'd like to see is that the stakeholders who I've spoken to all suggest that the first and important step is a feasibility study. A feasibility study about reopening Midge Hall Station was conducted in 2019. It showed that there was potentially an issue with dwell time. However, we are, and thanks to this Conservative government, we have replaced the hated Pacer trains, which took a long time to stop and a long time to start. And I think there's a case for looking again at the opportunities to reopen the station and not affect the timetabling. In fact, most recently I was with Network Rail executives at the Midge Hall site on Friday, and there was no objections in principle to the scheme, and they could see how well supported that railway was. You know, 2 carriages absolutely packed heading down. I believe it was probably to Ladies' Day at the Grand National. So, we need a feasibility study, and will the Minister consider doing that? Will the Minister consider finding the funding to open Midge Hall and support us to do it? Will the Minister help me work with both Northern Rail and Merseyrail to get rid of the buffers at Ormskirk and to introduce a battery train service that really reinvigorates that line and the broader region? And does the Minister consider the feasibility of reopening the Burscough curves whilst separate from the 2 issues that I've talked about today, an important part of improving rail infrastructure across the Western Central Lancashire? Very much, Madam Deputy Speaker.
Damien Moore.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And I really want to first commend my honourable friend for all of her efforts in making sure that rail connectivity is established in the areas that are part of this debate. It's great to have her as my constituency neighbour working really hard on this important issue, important to our constituents for all the reasons that she's highlighted there. And I know for her the Midge Hall railway station is something that she's continued to campaign on since she was first elected, and is not letting her constituents down today in doing that, because the regional connectivity between regions is as important as it is within them, and that is why this is really important, because you have Liverpool, which is in Merseyside, and you have Preston in Lancashire, and we really do thank the Department for Transport for all the extra funding that's going in from the money that would have been spent on HS2. We've got both areas are getting about £500 million to spend, but the temptation always is to spend them within their own area.
Correct.
But the problem is the connectivity between the areas is important. It's important because of all of the economic activity which goes on between those areas, and it should be further enhanced by people being able to get there by a very easy train journey, not a very complicated train journey, because they are less likely to do it. It is also important because we do have an education triangle, if you like, around that area, where the people living within it find it hard to get around it because there are universities at both ends of this. which makes it important for education because people should be able to get to those places very easily. And certainly if you're living in the middle of that and have to get to one of those mainline stations, it's incredibly difficult. And so train journeys are not forthcoming. People are using car journeys, which is incredibly a retrograde step when we think about carbon footprints. We are really working at this, and we've got to say that there are huge stakeholders in this, from all of our businesses in the education sector, between my honourable friend, myself, and others, and Opster, which is one of the rail passengers forums, has continued there to support both of our efforts in the connection, which is incredibly important to our constituents. And as I've said, I do thank the Department for Transport for all of their efforts in making sure that we prioritise regional connectivity. But again, as I said at the start, it's between the regions that might need that ministerial steer, because the communities that are affected in those areas don't really look at who is their political representative when they think about their journey to work, their journey to their college, their journey to university. They just know it's difficult and they want somebody to step in and resolve the problem. And so my honourable friend and I are doing everything we can to resolve that problem for them. It is a really important time to seize this opportunity to improve the quality of lives for our constituents. And I know my constituents in Southport want to see these improvements. I know my honourable friend's constituents in South Ribble want to see these important concerns resolved. And I'm sure the Minister is aware that we will continue to campaign for these until we start seeing the feasibility study, which I am sure will unlock these projects becoming a reality and making lives easier for our constituents. And so I hope the Minister is taking that on board. It's that conversation that needs to happen between the areas because of the passengers affected in those black spots, not them spending the money on great services just within them, between these areas. Helping our constituents is equally as important. Thank you.
Minister Hugh Merriman.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And can I congratulate my honourable friend, the member for South Ribble, for securing this debate on the merits of reopening Midge Hall railway station and providing direct services between Liverpool and Preston. I really do appreciate her tireless work in campaigning for the transport needs of South Ribble and the wider region. And I also want to pay credit to my honourable friend, the member for Southport, for the work he does in the same vein for his constituency. My department, Madam Deputy Speaker, prioritises investment in our roads, railways and public transportation systems that meet the needs of our growing population, enhance connectivity and drive economic growth. Transportation is the lifeblood of any thriving community. It connects people to opportunities, goods to markets and services to those in need. Lancashire has been and seen tremendous growth and development in recent years, but with changing demands. And that's why I'm proud to be part of a government behind Network North, a significant £36 billion programme of transport investment across the country. This will not only address our current challenges, but also lay foundations for a sustainable, prosperous future. Turning to the pitch for Midge Hall Station, the Liverpool Preston branch line currently accommodates an hourly service which is interworked with the Colne and Blackpool South services. The single-track operation is, as my honourable friend has mentioned, token-controlled between the Midge Hall and Rufford signal boxes, meaning that trains currently stop at Midge Hall south of Midge Hall Lane to exchange the token with the signal box operator. Trains are required to stop at the token exchange point and receive, if they're going southbound, or hand over, if they're northbound, the physical token. The complete process from the closure of the Midge Hall Lane level crossing to the reopening of the crossing takes approximately 2 minutes for a northbound train and 3 minutes for a southbound train, with the train dwelling for between 7 and 10 seconds. My honourable friend mentions that trains therefore stop at Midge Hall for the token exchange, but there are currently no platform facilities for passengers to alight. So how, Madam Deputy Speaker, can we help, as we have been asked by my honourable friend? On the 26th of February, we announced allocations for the £4.7 billion Local Transport Fund for local authorities in the North and Midlands outside of city regions. This investment will deliver an unprecedented long-term funding uplift and is the first transport investment of its kind for these areas. This fund will empower local leaders to support the transport projects that matter most to their communities, helping create jobs, grow the economy and level up the country. Of course, we'll need the support and cooperation of local communities to make this a success. Honourable members should let their voices be heard, champion the improvements their constituents are calling for and work with their local authorities to turn this vision into reality. Now, I'm sure my honourable friend welcomed the news that Lancashire County Council has been allocated £494 million from this local transport fund to be paid over 7 years starting next year. Local transport authorities have the freedom to choose from a range of projects such as building new roads, installing or expanding tram lines or improving train stations. We will shortly publish advice for local authorities to help them make the most of this opportunity. Now, my right honourable friend, the Secretary of State for Transport, recently met with the leaders of Lancashire County Council to discuss a number of local transport schemes, and this included the reinstatement of the Burscough curves that my honourable friend, the member for Southport, has championed. And indeed, I believe that he has met with his local transport authority to the same end. Now, the Secretary of State stressed that these projects could benefit from the local transport fund, the projects that we've heard from my honourable friends, but it will be for the Council to determine whether it is prioritised for investment. We have written to each local authority, making it clear that they will be expected to consult with local MPs, like the champions we have heard from, as they develop their plans for spending their local transport fund allocation. I would encourage my honourable friends to work closely with the Council and advocate for the work needed at Midge Hall and the Burscough curves. And I know that they are looking for me to play the lead in terms of making the case with them. I'm very happy to do so and to help sell the case that they have made so eloquently this evening. Now, if I may turn to my honourable friend's second point around extending train services beyond electrified routes. I agree that new technologies have the potential to decarbonise the rail network while unlocking additional destinations, bringing environmental and service benefits to passengers and local communities. To help deliver the government's net zero commitment, we will electrify additional lines and deploy alternative traction technologies such as battery, as my honourable friend has mentioned, where it makes operational and economic sense. The government is supporting the development of battery and hydrogen technology in rail through innovation funding and research. This includes work on safety and wider issues that will have to be considered before rolling this technology out more widely. Since the start of 2019, the Department for Transport has provided around £4.75 million of funding through its first-of-a-kind competitions, which are run by Innovate UK, to help decarbonise the railway. This includes £750,000 to facilitate trials of the UK's first hydrogen-powered train, which was showcased at COP26. And earlier today, the Minister for Technology and Decarbonisation launched the latest round of transport research and innovation grants, offering organisations and academics the chance to win their share of a £1.3 million fund to seek solutions to some of transport's greatest challenges. And my department has also helped to get innovations off the ground by supporting trials. This included approximately £2.15 million of rail network enhancement pipeline funding for the UK's first fast-charging battery-only train. And quite remarkably, a recent test train travelled a record-breaking 86 miles on battery power alone. And we hope to see the first scheduled passenger service later this year. And it's this type of technology that we're investing in, Madam Deputy Speaker, that will allow us to reach our 2040 target to take all diesels off the line, and will be the type of solution that my honourable friend has rightly called for. I was pleased to see that some of these new technologies are already being deployed in the area. Headbolt Lane Station, which the Secretary of State opened last year, is the first station to benefit from battery technology on their new Class 77 trains, removing the need to extend the third rail beyond the existing Kirkby station. Of course, the matter of further extension of the Merseyrail services, either over the Burscough curves or from Ormskirk towards Preston, is a local one. Merseyrail is a devolved concession with key strategic decisions made at a local level by Liverpool City Region Combined Authority. It's right that local leaders, not ministers in Whitehall, decide whether such projects are the best way to meet local needs. It's that ethos, more power and more investment in local hands, which is driving this government's new approach to transport, and it's that ethos that has seen us double Liverpool City Region's sustainable transport settlement to £1.6 billion. So I'd like to close by thanking my honourable friend, the member for South Ribble, and also my honourable friend, the member for Southport. I'd like to thank my honourable friend, the member for South Ribble in particular, for securing the debate, and I want to assure both of my honourable friends that I take their points on board on local public transport needs. This fund is made available, which includes for business cases, for projects, as we've heard, championed this evening. I want to see those projects being invested in. So I have great hope and optimism that we can assist with my honourable friends with their campaigns. And I want to assure both of them that my door is open to them to discuss wider transport opportunities which will benefit their constituents, and I will do what I can to help sell the case for their rail projects.
The question is that this House do now adjourn. As many as are of that opinion say aye. Aye. The ayes have it. Order. Order.
The proceeding has ended. 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 The proceeding has ended.